Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome back to All Things Fitness with your boy Cross, the Christian cyclist. And today I got a good friend of mine, Adam Shuhaida, and he has an unbelievable story. Listen, you're going to want to stay through the whole broad podcast to just hear I think you'll be inspired. I think you will learn something, not just from an athlete, but this is a career athlete who had some struggles, and he's going to share a story with you. And I really pray that you gain something from this. This is our 4th episode. We're excited by it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, hit the like button. We've had great reviews, and we're getting a lot of comments on the podcast, which means to me that you're benefiting from it. So if you want me to keep doing it so you can keep benefiting, let me know about it, and I'll surely do that. We'll try to bring people on that has a real message that will touch your heart and touch you at a place that matters. Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome. Thanks, Cross. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad that you could be on today. I'm glad that you had the time to share your story with us, man. I just talking to you and hearing what you've gone through and what you've experienced, it moved me, it touched me, because I know as a parent, there are times where, and I'm not going to tell you a story, I'm going to let you tell it, but as a parent, there was times where my wife would tell me, she thought I was pushing my son into an area that he ran track, and he had a lot of potential as a cross-country runner. And she thought I was kind of pushing him into it where he didn't necessarily want to do it anymore, but it was more me. He didn't want to let me down. So that's why I could really connect to your story. And I had to back off and just say, okay, and I sort of developed this philosophy that stayed with me all my life. And that is, you can't want something more than someone else wanted for themselves. And I think that kind of pulls you back. Right. And so that's going to lead me into the title of our broadcast is Failure is Not Given, Not Guaranteed, and Success. Wait a minute, I'm saying this wrong. Failure is not guaranteed and success. Am I saying this wrong? Oh, failure is guaranteed. Here we go. Failure is guaranteed and success is not. There, that's the title. So tell me what that means to you. Failure is guaranteed and success is not. What does that mean to you, Adam?
Yeah. I think what it means is that, there's a misconception that we have all of this control over the outcome of, our endeavors. And the reality is you can only do so much, right? You can do the work, you can want it, but at the end of the day, you might not get it anyway. And, you have to be aware of that. And that, I think, kind of mindset, one, it'll keep you focused, but it also keep you down to earth. Hopefully it'll keep you from being crushed if things don't work out quite the way you want them to. Okay. And maybe my hope is that it would help people to appreciate the journey more than, the finish line. If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And let's talk about your journey. Let's talk about, so when I say career athlete, you've been involved in athletics pretty much all your life, at least from your high school up, and maybe even grammar school.
Yeah, my whole life.
Yeah. So you're a career athlete, right? You're what we call a career athlete. I'm just looking at your resume, and it's astonishing. I mean, you started a career in wrestling, 2 times conference champion, 2 times regional champion, sectional runner-up, 2 state qualifiers, and then taking that on to your running career. You've triathlete, 2 Chicago Marathon finisher, 2-time Chicago Marathon finisher, 6-time Ironman 7.3 finisher, national qualifier 2 times at your age group. And this last year, you won the bronze in the Ironman. Or is that this year? You won the bronze?
Yeah. So there's kind of like a ranking system, sort of like in high school or college. You got like kind of like your all conference and all state and all American. So okay. Ironman has a similar system, and it's like bronze, silver, and gold. Bronze is like all world. They call it all world athlete, but it's age group. You know, it's age group top 10%. That's what that means.
Okay. So this is, so going into the Ironman this year. When is the Ironman this year?
So I mean, Ironman. I mean, there's a lot of races for Ironman. Are you talking about World Championships?
Oh yeah, the World Championship, I should say.
Yeah, World Championships. I think they're having 2 this year.
Okay.
But I think the first one is in Utah, and it's in like 2 weeks. It's coming up.
Oh wow.
And then I think they're having another. I mean, I think they're resuming because of COVID. They're having it in Utah. Okay. And they canceled it last year, so they're doing it 2 weeks from now for last year, and then I think they're resuming Kona in October, which is when it normally is.
Oh, okay. So you're going into, when it says 2022 Ironman All World Athlete Bronze, that's just the status that you are this year. You're in that bronze status. Okay. All right. Terrific.
Correct.
So let's talk. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the impact, because when we talked about the impact of you being an athlete in your family and some of the struggles that you went through. Let's share that story with the audience so that they can really grasp what this is about. Yeah.
So, well, yeah, I mean, like you said, you know, I've been involved in athletics pretty much my whole life. I mean, I started my dad got me into soccer when I was a little kid. And then, late in grammar school, I started wrestling. I come from a family of wrestlers on both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. And a lot of them, actually, pretty much all of them are very talented. There's a couple that are, in the Hall of Fame for East Aurora High School, actually. But, so, and my dad was an excellent wrestler too. He was conference champion, at East Aurora back in the day, back in the 60s. So they got me started. I had a lot of really good coaching with that. I felt like I had kind of a jump start because I had so much access to knowledge of how to wrestle. I picked it up really quick and I was successful really fast. So I had a really, really strong, youth career, pre-sophomore year of high school, very strong. Like you were saying, I was, I did really well kind of like, 7th and 8th grade. You know, I was pretty much crushing it. And then, freshman year of high school, I was crushing it. Sophomore year, I got into varsity and then everything changed. I think like coming up to that point, it was just sort of kind of I was kind of glossed over, like that's just kind of like a guaranteed, so we're not going to worry about that. But,
so wait, let's stop right there for a second. Let's stop there.
Yeah.
So pre-varsity, you were pretty much killing it, right? So it's not unreasonable, right? That if you have this sophomore that's like crushing it all the time, that the natural instinct of any coach, parents is we need to move him up, right? We need to get him to the next level. He's ready. But at that time, did you know you was ready? Did you feel you were ready? What?
It's funny. They actually wanted to move me up freshman year. About halfway through the season, I was getting called up to do varsity tournaments, and I said no. I was like, no, I'm not ready for that. And it was funny because I got a lot of goofy looks for that. And that was maybe the first time I felt that pressure because I didn't feel really any pressure before that. There was no pressure. It was just kind of me doing my thing. And everybody was kind of just standing at the side just watching me do my thing. But I would say that, like, that freshman year when I started kind of turning down offers to wrestle up to varsity, that's when I really kind of started feeling that odd sort of expectation, And
so you felt the pressure of those who wanted you to make that leap, but you wasn't ready to make that leap, right?
Right.
Okay.
So sophomore year came along. They didn't have a sophomore team. It was I think it was JV and then it was varsity. I don't know, maybe they did have a sophomore team. I don't really remember. But anyway, it was kind of like the logical progression for me personally was to move up to the varsity. And at the time, I was excited about it because they were like, just come up to varsity. It's just going to be an experience year. Nobody's going to care if you win or lose. That's kind of how they roped me in, you know. And then it was seriously like it was something straight out of like, you know, a hustle.
Wow.
The first couple of matches I won. So of course I'm like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Great year. Right.
Right.
But then everything just went downhill after that. Like, you know, and then, that season was brutal. It was just brutal. I think I lost more matches that season than I had my entire wrestling career combined.
Oh, wow. Now let me ask you this.
So it was just,
so before you go into the next phase of that, let's pick that part of it. You was losing match after match. Was it a mental thing at this point? Was it a talent?
No.
These kids was too big. They was too strong. It was just, what was it?
It was all of those things, I would say. It didn't start off as a mental thing. I think it probably morphed into a mental thing eventually. Like by the end of the season, I was way into my head. But at first, no, it wasn't that. It was just that, I was at 152 pound weight class. It was the most competitive weight class in the entire field, essentially. I was in I think it was the silver conference. I mean, it was a very competitive conference. I wrestled the state champion from the year before and he just destroyed me, you know? So it was a really, really competitive weight class, really competitive conference. And, they were bigger than me. They were more developed and they were more talented a lot of times. Okay. So, and then, like you said, it was just
so at this point,
progression of discouragement.
So at this point, you're at a downward spiral. You're losing.
Yeah.
What happens now?
You know, I mean, so I think I'm not exactly sure when this happened, but at one point, you know, my coach, I remember this. It's crazy, right? Because it's so long ago. But my coach kind of pulled us all up. It was sometime in one of our practices. He huddled us all together and he said, "Who here is not planning on returning next year?" And this was like in the middle of the season. And I just very matter-of-factly raised my hand. You know, because I'm 15 at the time. You know, you don't know anything. Like I can't see 5 feet in front of my face. So I'm just like, yeah, probably not gonna come back. That didn't go over very well. You know, that sparked a firestorm that really kind of reverberated throughout the entire, administration, my parents, the community at large with wrestling, my teammates, my friends. Everybody was just like, what's with this atomic bomb that you just dropped, know? And then again, I felt that odd sort of expectation again, you know? Yeah.
So was it just the rebellion? Was it that rebellion? Like, okay, you're 15 and you know how, if you got a 15-year-old, right, we get in that rebellious stage. Well, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of losing. It's too much. I don't want to do it. Or was that a genuine, I'm not sure I'm in the right place at the right time?
Yeah, I really don't think that I was. I didn't love it anymore. And I mean, there were some signs of that. There were some signs of that way before. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a wrestling tournament, but they're an all day, sometimes 2 days, sometimes 3 day long event. Where you're sitting there, you only wrestle for 6 minutes. Right. Yeah. But you wait 2 to 3 hours in between matches. The anxiety that builds up in between those sets, is unbearable, and it was no fun, and I hated it. I hated waiting for matches to start up. It was, that anxiety was just a lot for me to deal with. And a lot of times, and this was before I was ever on varsity. That was how it was ever since I started. And I think that really that part of it, was something that I just really didn't tolerate well. And, it contributed a lot to my lack of, passion for the sport after, a certain time. And, I was just kind of burning out, and then on top of it, now I'm not winning anymore. So it's like, okay, I'm dealing with all this crazy
double negative.
And now I'm losing. Yeah, forget it. I just don't want to do this anymore.
So that's at this stage, you going to this point, now you're parents and you're going into this depression, right? Let's talk about this depression. How did you get into this point of depression? I mean, we know where it started. Was that all that contributed to it, or did it just keep piling on from that point?
I mean, I think like that whole thing really kind of started when it was really because of how the season ended. Like, like I said, kind of going back to that matter of fact hand raise, that was really when that downward spiral started. And then that pressure from, administration and coaching, and community really started. They pushed and pushed and pushed to the point where I just broke. And, I left too early. I quit the team before the season ended. So, it was right before the season ended. So I finished the last meet. It was in between the last meet and regionals. So all I needed to do was go to regionals, lose the first match, and go home. And that was it. Right. But instead, like, I didn't. I went up to my coach and I handed him my stuff, and then I walked out the door. Wow. And he said to me when I did that, he said, "What kind of a person are you to do something like this?" And that's when I think that whole thing started. Like I said to you before when we were talking kind of offline, it's not really that I left. It's just how it went down. That's really what bothered me the most about it. And the funny thing about it is, and I think this is because this is a 15-year-old kid, right?
Well, that's what I was about to say. You're 15, so okay.
Right. And to put that kind of pressure on somebody at that age, recognizing, I mean, look, there are people that get in freshman year and they win state every single year. They're like, right? I mean, they get onto varsity, they win state. Bam, 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 bam. And they're clearly talented. A person who is joining a sophomore team and doing just okay doesn't have the talent you thought they did, and maybe it's time to take the foot off the gas in terms of pressure with how this person, is performing. And maybe just have them work on, improving and, maybe try to keep them interested instead of just, hey, what's wrong with you,
So you're 15. Yeah. You're under an extreme amount of pressure because you're losing. Things are not going the way you thought it would go, varsity. And you walk out on a team. Okay. As some a 15-year-old would do. You have 4 generations of wrestlers in your house, in your family, right? How does the family embrace you at this point? How did that happen?
It's funny. So I haven't really ever talked to most of them about it.
Really? Even today?
I don't know.
This day?
No, even today. No.
Wow.
Yeah. I think, at least my own dad, he was fine. I think he was supportive. They pushed me before that happened, probably in kind of a last ditch effort to keep me from giving up. Okay. But they knew it was coming, and they were supportive. I think it's kind of like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like I said, I mean, and I am too. Like I said, I'm disappointed, and this is why, right? Because if this is just a story about some sophomore kid wrestling, it's a high school thing. But I think the thing is that. Here's the thing: is that life event, that was a life event, which is why it's so significant to me. It created a fracture that never really healed itself. I think
a fracture within you, a fracture within the community, a fracture how?
Within my within me, within my, I would say like within my soul, you know?
Okay.
You know, and I think when things go down like that, it has this impact on a person where they basically try to spend their life making up for it some way, not for anybody else but themselves, you know, and that can be a very negative thing. It can manifest itself in negative ways. So
coming up to today, you've carried this all your life. How does an event like that, how does that affect you now as a grown man with a family and an athlete, a successful athlete, but yet there's still an effect, right, from that childhood experience? And at what point did you actually get over that experience? Like, or did you ever get over it?
You know, I mean, it's funny. Like it took me a long time to get over that. In fact, so our coach's nickname was Pie. And, like, this is something that I never talked to anybody about ever. But even at my work desk, I had a screensaver up of the symbol Pi. And that always reminded me never to give up on things just because they get really hard, you know? And then I went to this leadership conference once, and this guy said, it's like, I don't know, it was weird. He goes, I want you guys to symbolize a struggle in your life. Write it down on a piece of paper, you know? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to knock this one out of the park, right? So I took out that piece of paper and I wrote the symbol Pi on it. And he's like, okay, did you write it down? And then we all said yes. And he goes, okay, now I want you to crumple it up. And I want you to throw it in the garbage. And I was floored by that. I was like, I thought he was going to make us like put it on our forehead or something and, you know, take a picture. But he said, crumple it up and throw it in the garbage. And then I just started questioning everything. And that was around the time when I started getting into endurance sports. That was, you know, more than 10 years after this whole thing happened.
So you're about 25 at this point then?
Yeah, it's like more like 28.
Okay.
You know,
closer to 30.
Like 28.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I started getting back into things, and it didn't, you know what, like, it didn't click right away. It didn't click. You know, you were talking about running marathons. I signed up for that first marathon. I'm like, all right, this is where I'm going to redeem myself. It's, you know, I'm a grown man, right? Saying this ridiculous nonsense, you know, and thinking that like you're going to cross this finish line in the Chicago Marathon and your whole life is going to change, right? And you're going to have some perspective on things, or you're going to have this redeemable quality to you. Because you cross some finish line, and that's clearly wrong, you know, right. And everything about that approach to doing anything is wrong.
Right.
And that's what I realized when I actually crossed that finish line. I crossed that finish line for the first Chicago Marathon, and I was like, this is the wrong way to approach it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I was going to say, you know, instead of validating finishing a marathon, why don't you appreciate the amount of work it took to even get to the start line? You know,
what I was going to say is you didn't
training, right?
Yeah. What I was going to say was just that you didn't need the marathon to validate you anymore. You realized that you was worth it before you even crossed the line. That's powerful. Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And so now, is that your approach? I mean, obviously that was an experience, right? So now coming through that, was that the only thing that helped you get through it? Or did that then begin a new process of how you see things and reconditioning your mind to understand that you're an incredible person, right? And sometimes we're not going to finish, or we're not going to do our greatest, or we're not going to have the best. Maybe we put in the best effort, but it won't translate at the finish line the same way.
Right.
But it don't take away from who you are. Was that the process that started that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely changed my perspective on a lot of things, and like you said in the beginning, right, with the whole failure is guaranteed, success is not adage. Like, this is where I'm at now. I'm a triathlete, and the reason I do it now is because I love it.
Amen.
I absolutely love it, and there's no expectation, right? I mean, I don't have this expectation to be successful. It's my thing. And I do it because I love it, not because I'm good at it. I'm not particularly good at it. And that's fine. That's totally fine, because you find validation in your life through things that you do that make you happy and, make you feel fulfilled and purposeful, and it's something that positively impacts you, right? Whether it be health or like for you, for spirituality, whatever it might be.
So when we look at, when we look at that title, failure is guaranteed and success is not. And if we take what we just talked about, this entire podcast, and when we really examine it, success is guaranteed, because success is a mindset, right? It's you. You're successful every single time you go and you set your mind to do something. It's not about whether you come in first place, but you've done what you set your mind to do. And to me, that is the success. You are the success story. You're doing it, right? You just said it. It's not about how I finished finish across the line. You may have 100 people finish in front of you, but the fact that you put the work in and you got out there and you did it, you gave it your all. You were successful in your own right. And that's how I see it. I see it as we have to have a greater measurement of ourselves by measuring ourselves, and not to other people, but we measure ourselves by our own efforts. When I get on a bike, I'll never be the fastest in it. Even no matter what group ride I have, some I may wind up being the fastest, but the perspective is you can go to almost any group and find somebody that's going to be faster than you, right? So you just do what you can do. You have fun doing it. If you love and you enjoy doing it, then to me, that is the success. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. Yep. I've said it before too. Success means different things to different people.
It does.
So yeah.
So you have children?
I have two. I have twin 8-year-old boys.
Okay. So we get, it's funny how fast 30 minutes go, right? We are almost at the last of the close of our podcast. If you had with your boys, and you're a parent and you're an athlete and you've been through it, what do you tell your children? Your children are into sports and they very good. You can see the potential, just like everyone's seen the potential in you. What's the message that you give your child?
I would just, what I always do is just encourage people to do their best. Approach it with reasonable expectations, right? And have fun. And when you don't have fun anymore, maybe try something else.
That's right.
Start looking for other things, because why are you doing it then, right? What are we doing this for? That's really what it is. What are you doing this for? If it's grinding you down and making you feel terrible, is it really worth it? Probably not.
And most of us, many of us are not professional to the sense that we're getting a paycheck for it, right? So we understand there are people who make a living in sports, and so they may go beyond that point of love for the game or love for the sport because they get paid by it. But for the average person, we should be able to enjoy what we do, and sometimes I think as parents, as coaches, as mentors, I think sometimes we rob children of that passion, that love. We take the joy right out of it because we put too much on them and don't allow them to just be like you. Just, hey, you know what? Maybe at that, when you jumped up, maybe the right thing would have been move you back down. Let you regain your passion for it again. Let you start winning again, and let you come up through the system like everybody else come up through the system. Maybe your body just needed to mature more. But when we put those kind of pressures on our young youth, once that joy is gone, look how long it took for you to find it again. And just the joy of being successful, of understanding what success meant to you, or knowing that you didn't need to be validated by crossing a line or being afraid to maybe walk away from something, or carrying that pie symbol for so long, That's the beauty. I think that as I try, even now when I'm working with other cyclists or athletes, I try to always encourage, especially like I'm 50 years old, and a lot of guys I work out with is older than me. And when I can still see your eyes light up at 63, 65 on a bike, that gives me hope, because it's about the love of just cycling, man, just being out there, being one with nature, whatever it is to you, but not to fulfill some commitment, but more than just, it's an expression of freedom. It allows you to just enjoy the fitness of living and feeling healthy when you wake up in the morning, right? All those good things that we have. So, man, Adam, I appreciate you. I appreciate your journey, what you've been through. And more than anything, I appreciate the fact that you came through it and you're still functioning at a high level. You've always been an exceptional athlete all your life, even through that period where you may have gone down. It didn't change the fact you was exceptional. You just had to get back to that point of knowing you were exceptional. So congratulations, man. Thank
you.
Yeah.
It was a twisted road, but I made it.
You did. And I'm sure when it's all over, there's going to be this resume, as extensive as it is, it'll get added to, and in your older age, you'll just keep crossing those lines and having something to say, hey, that's just another thing I've done that I'm proud of. So thank you very much.
Definitely. You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, it was my pleasure. So we're wrapping up right now. And thank you guys for joining us on our episode 4. Adam, what a phenomenal story. Listen, if you're a parent, you're a coach. It doesn't matter at what level, any level. We have to be conscious of people, the people side of sports. There's a people side to sport, right? We're all human. We all have feelings. We all have emotions. And it's very easy to get caught up in the athletics, the performance, and you begin to want more than maybe what that person can produce, not just from a physical standpoint, even from a mental standpoint. We have to take time and make sure that we don't project our greater desires that crush the person we're projecting it on, their desires. We want to make sure that especially as a parent, and I'm talking to my parents right now, you have to be very, very careful of what you project onto your children. You have to be careful of having them to reach. I mean, we want our children to strive. We always want our children to strive to be better than us. I mean, that's any father, any mother's ambition for their children to go further than you do, right? That's evolution. We call that evolution. However, we should make that journey as easy for them as possible. We should pave a road and allow them to have success, but have success in a very joyful way. Everybody, I know there's this adage where if I struggled, then you can't learn unless you struggle, So a lot of times we take the generations behind us and we want to drag them through the mud because maybe we had to go through the mud. that's not always the case. You know, I don't want my child to go through everything I went through. I went through a lot as a child, and I would never want my children to experience what I experienced and think that my son couldn't be a man unless he experienced what I experienced. Every person has their own road. They have their own journey, and our job is to help guide them through their journey. And if all at best, help them avoid the landmines that can mess them up for life. So if this podcast, I pray that it touched you. I pray that you gained something from it. As I said in the beginning, I hope Adam's story shed some light on maybe some things that you didn't think about. Maybe you have a 15-year-old right now, and maybe that 15-year-old is giving you the signs that you're not seeing, that maybe they don't have the same joy for whatever that is. And all you see is your joy and your passion, but you're not looking into the eyes of that 15-year-old to see that he's losing that light in his eye. If that's the case, take the time out, stop, and just recalibrate. Recalibrate yourself, recalibrate him spiritually, physically as well. All right, we're done. As we always say, and in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things in Christ who strengthened me. This your boy Cross, the Christian Cyclist. Until next time, God bless you, and I'll see you again. Peace.